Hi everybody, welcome for the second game of the Swiss tournament War Tavern Lausanne. I'm facing the Legend 27 Thomas from ETC Team Switzerland. Very interesting game against his Saurian Ancient. My list is the following, as I already explained it in the introduction video. If you didn't watch the video, I suggest that you do so that you can understand how it works, more or less. And my opponent is playing a Saurian Warlord on an Alpha Carnosaur, a Skin Captain on a Taurosaur BSB, a Skin Priest of 3 disc with 3 spell and a Binding Scroll, 26 Saurian Warrior with the Jaguar, which is giving them +1 movement, +2 advance while marching. 15 Saurian Warrior, 6 Cayman with Albert, 2 units of Ramphrodon Riders, 5 Chameleons, and 2x1 Stygosaur. We are playing all the ground and a frontline clash. Regarding the spell selection, I chose Full Blast in Alchemy because he has some good armor save. I think I had some interesting targets. +2 armor save, and then with Witchcraft I decided to select -2 agility weapon skill, which might be interesting in some combat, and then the Fly, which is always a good spell. My opponent decided to take the Threat spell, Regeneration, Summer Growth, and Toughness boost. So, regarding the matchup, rather positive I would say. I have good tools, but at the same time the Carno is not so easy to manage. He has a lot of mobility with the flying, so I need to be careful. Regarding the Carno, I plan to slow him down, chaff him, and use my shooting against better targets because he has hard target 1, so not so easy to kill. But still I have some chance, and of course I have to be careful regarding Ramphrodon Riders because they can fly and they can get behind my lines, so I have to frenzy bait them if possible by using, for example, the slaves to try to force them to charge me, and at the beginning of the game be careful with my deployment. Of course, I think I have good chances with Citadel block in this matchup against the Saurus block. I think I should be better because of the higher weapon skill, a higher armor save, so I should be fine. And the post block of Lugar are good tools to possibly kill Cayman, Stygo, or maybe even the Carno. So I think I have some good tools in this matchup. Deployment, Thomas decided to drop everything for first turn. I was able to choose the side, I guess. And took the south part, and he was able to take north and drop everything for first turn. He put on the left the Stygo, the Carno, first small unit of Ramphrodon, the unit of Cayman, 2 Saurus block with the Palanquin in the unit, the BSB Taurosaur, the second biggest unit of Ramphrodon, and the Stygo. And my counter deployment was following. I took a bit of time to measure everything what was possible with the 12 and then 16 fly, so 28. Gives him a lot of possibilities. I decided to cover everything the best I could and also cover my flank, but I was not 100% satisfied with my deployment. I will tell you after the game why. So yeah, basically on the left, first block of Lugar, slaves facing Ramphrodon to frenzy bait them, second unit of Lugar, light cav, the bunker giant, a big block of Citadel Guard, the tank, the magician, second unit of slave to frenzy bait the second unit, and here on the right the Kalim Titan. But unfortunately for me, I completely forgot that he had scout. He did it in a smart way. The scouts were behind the table, and then he took them and put them in the field, and I completely forgot that he had some scout and that he could move out of arc of the Kalim Titan, which was a bit stupid mistake, but I completely forgot them. He showed me the list, and I didn't remark them in the list, so my mistake. Eastern one, he moves forward a bit aggressively on the left flank and more carefully towards the center. And here left flank, yeah, he moved forward, but he's outside of charge range of my blocks at the moment. In Magic, he was able to try to cast Throne. I was able to dispel it. And then he failed with the Toughness boost. And with shooting, I was able to do 3 armor save, a ward save, 5 up with Kalim Titan, quite lucky for me. He was already in a position to possibly punish the Kalim Titan. So, yeah, bad placement for me. I completely forgot about them. Just hope I will not suffer too much from these 10 shots. My turn 1. I need to get the center, so I moved quite aggressively forward. I made sure that it's not possible for the Saurians to charge the giant, and basically I moved back slightly with this block of Lugar and turned around the giant to threat his flank. If he moves forward, I should be able to charge him. I want to slow him down on his aggressive flank. Moved a bit forward with the, didn't move that at all, more or less, with the disciples. Just made sure to cover the flank, to cover him moving into my flank with the Sigio, to move, if he moves here, I should be able to see him as well. And basically, moved a bit with PSB and so on to have the good range to be able to cast spell at the Ramfordon and the Carnosaur. And here on the right, I decided to move forward. I will ignore more or less the Sigio and the small unit and just use the Orcs, turn them around to cover a bit behind to avoid him going behind my lines. But basically, I know that I need to push towards the center to be able to win this game, more or less. And I move forward with the tank to be able to shoot at the PSB. Yes, I guess that was it. In Magic, I was able to cast Molten Copper on the left unit, dispelled by Thomas, and then I tried the Silver Spike, but failed against the Carnosaur. And let's move on to his turn 2. His turn 2, he passes the Frenzy check with the unit on the left that I Frenzy bait, and decided to move carefully forward, but still remains in position more or less. And then turn around the Saurus to be able to score with 2 units, and here I'm in trouble because I'm too far away with my scoring units, and I have only 1 scoring at the moment, so which is a bit a problem at the moment. Move slightly back with the BSB, move to my flank with the Sigio and the Skink, which leaves me with a long charge at the moment. And that's it. In Magic, I was able to cast the Throne, then I dispelled the regen on the PSP to be able to shoot him. I was not able to do anything with shooting on the first turn against the PSP. And yeah, that's already my turn 2. Again, I'm frenzy baiting him on both Ramfordon unit. On the right side, I decided to use the Orcs as piece of chaff, giving a front to Carnosaur, Cayman, and Ramfordon. And basically, he has not enough space to charge with the Cayman towards my Lugar unit. And I just made sure that it's still possible to combo charge the Cayman with both Orcs and Lugar if he decides to do any kind of movement. And then here on the right, just made sure to cover the room for the Stigio, but this leaves the Carnosaur away to come into my lines, and maybe I should have turned them around to rather cover the Carno, which is much more important, and as covering for the Stigio, who can move behind my line, is less of a threat than the Carno. So maybe would have been better to just leave the Stigio in my front at the moment, but cover rather for the Carno, who can come into my lines. But I was, at the same time, I needed to make choice at this point of time. Turn around with the Giant and move forward with all my threats toward the center. Because I remark he has 2 scoring, I have only 1. I will lose the first point, so I need to get as soon as possible into the combat. In this zone, I have a lot of power here. Should be fine to deal with him. So that's the idea. In Magic, I'm able to... No, it's Dispel Molten Copper again. Then I'm able with the Kicksteel Velage to do 3 wounds to the left Ramfordon. And I try again a Spike, but I fail against the Carnosaur again. And with shooting, I was able to do 1 or 2 wounds on the Saurus block, but nothing more. His turn 3, he was able to pass both a Frenzy check, moved back with the Ramfordon on the left behind his block, uses my chaff to cover himself more or less against the Lugar, moves the Carnosaur behind my lines, and failed charge on the 8 with the Stigio against the Orcs. I would have been still able to see him, but not sure. The position of this Lugar on the left was not good enough. So he's able to move between my lines on his turn 3. Here he's moving as chaff, so to avoid me going in a straight line with Cadim Titan, so I have no charge with Cadim Titan since he's out of arc with Stigio and the Skink unit, also out of arc of my block of Orcs. And I guess that's it for his movement. In the Magic phase, he was able to cast the Oaken Throne, to cast Regeneration on the BSB, and to cast Stone Skin on the Cayman unit. I was keeping all my dice for his spell, but I wasn't able to dispel it. He was able to get it with a very high roll, and that's a bit unfortunate for me. Because I really wanted to go into this unit. I should have maybe used my Binding Scroll. I decided to keep it for later combat. My idea was I can still decide whether or not I want to charge the Cayman unit, so that's not maybe the best point in time to use the Binding Scroll, but maybe I should have just used it this turn to avoid him getting Stone Skin, and here basically was able to cast 3 spells, which is bad. My turn 3, I charge with the tank onto the leftmost Renfordon. I pass the leadership 8 rerollable, 9 rerollable actually, with Scalim Titan to march towards his flank out of arc of the BSB. I was able to charge with the Giant and to still be out of arc of the BSB with the Giant onto the Saurus block, which is interesting for me. Unfortunately for me, there was not enough room to move here in between, and I was not able to replicate his movement with the Saurus. And because on last turn he was still here with the flying unit, I was not able to move forward with the bunker, but yes, now I'm able to move forward, but I will still not be able to score this turn, so we will probably be able to get another point, and that's getting more and more complicated for me to get the objective, so that's a bit problematic. Even with toughness 7, I decided to charge, maybe, I decided still to charge with the Lugar. I think with flaming attack and reroll to wound, I might still be able to win combat. And unfortunately for me, I completely forgot to move the Orc unit on the left. Here I decided to chaff him with no good overrun, and I'm ready to re-chaff on the coming turn if needed. Turn around, now the Lugar to react. Basically, if he decides to overrun or to reform, should be able to charge him on the next turn, possibly. Which should be good news, and I made sure that my BSB general are within range for the terror check. I guess that's it. Just reform the Orc to cover more or less the Skinks and be outside of the Stigio, and move forward with the Citadel block to be able to charge on the Saurus block on the next turn if needed. In Magic, he used Binding Scroll on Silver Spike to avoid me getting a Silver Spike on his Carnosaur. Then I was able to get Molten Copper on the Carnosaur. I tried first the Quicksilver Lash. I know he has a ward save, but I need the attribute and to have a cheap attribute on my on the Cayman unit. So I decided with 2 dice, Quicksilver Lash on the Carno. You never know, he might file a save. But I should have, I don't know why, I guess I cast it on the Carno to cast Silver Spike as well, but I should have focused really on the BSB because he has a good armor save, so I don't know why I did this. It was really a mistake. But yeah, basically I was able to cast Molten Copper on the Carno, did nothing but put an attribute on the Cayman, and then I put -2 weapon skill on the Cayman, and I decided to put +2 armor save, I guess, on the tank, but this was dispelled by my opponent. Close combat, I was here winning by 1, he was able to stick with the Cayman, and here I was losing by 1, but I was able to stick, and here I was able to kill the Renfordon, and because his chaff is not well placed, I was able to overrun with a 10 onto the BSB, which is a good news for me. His turn 4, which will be the last turn. Unfortunately, we took some time to play the game. He charges, I'm able to pass the terror. He put both Stigio to chaff my unit who can have nasty charge on the next turn. Here we're still in combat. He is still in a position to score. And the Renfordon are looking backwards to avoid any kind of frenzy check on the next turn. He was able this turn to pass frenzy, not to charge. I guess he was still looking this way last turn. In Magic, I'm using Binding Scroll on the toughness boost, of course. I was able to dispel 2 times the Throne, and then I was able to get regen on the BSB. With shooting, I was able to do 2 wounds on the Scalim Titan, and yeah, that was it. Close combat, he's still able to stick, but I did a couple more wounds thanks to the toughness being much lower. This time he had quite a bit harder test. It was with -2. I guess still with BSB, but with -2, so 6 minimize rollable, he was able to pass it. Unfortunately for me, because if not, I would have been able to reform and charge the possibly the Carnosaur, which could have been interesting for me. Or even try possibly a charge in the flank of the Saurus. I had some possibilities possibly for the next turn if I make them flee, but I was not able to do so. And here we did a draw. I was able to reform to make sure I can charge next turn with the Citadel Guard. And here, I guess he did 1 wound to me. I did nothing to him. That was it. My last turn, charges with Citadel Block onto the Saurus combat. Charges with Kadim Titan and Lugar onto both Stygiasaur. Here we're still in combat. I did nothing with the Orc because I'm still in the front arc, so nothing too interesting for me. And I just put my mage and scoring unit to be within 6, but I will lose, unfortunately, the objective. Not unfortunately because I played bad the objective, but I will speak about it towards the end. And here, as you can see, he made just an overrun. Yeah. Magic. I'm able to get +2 armor save. I guess I put it on the Citadel, but I should have put it. Just wanted to be sure to win this combat, but I guess maybe it would have been better to put it on the tank to give me more chance to save points on tank. I was able to put -2 weapon skill on this unit to get an attribute onto this unit, I guess, and then he dispelled the blast. I don't remember I guess against Ranfordor to try to get points. Close combat, here I was able to kill him. Here I was able to make him flee but not catch him. And here I was able to make him flee and pursue with both and catch him, which is good. And here the tank took 2 wounds, so I had 1 wounds left at the end of the combat. I did nothing in return. And here I was able to do like 2 wounds to Stygio, but not enough to kill him, so he's still alive. With the Stygio against the Kadim Titan. And yeah, that was it. That's the end of the game. I took Saurus block, half of the Cayman, which were fleeing with, I guess, yeah, more than a quarter of the health point. The big unit of Ranfordor who chaffed me, the mage, and the Stygiosaur, which makes a bit less than 2000 points. He took a piece of chaff and half the tank from me. That's it. But he took all the ground, and this makes only an 11-9 for me. Yeah, post-game analysis, a lot to say. Didn't focus myself enough on the objective. Deployment was not good enough. I forgot about the scout, so should have deployed a bit better. I will show you in the next slide the picture of what I should have done. When I forgot to move the slave, I lost possibly a round of combat to make him flee and then possibly reform and charge Carno, have a chance to possibly deal with the Carno or make him flee or make him test, which could have been interesting. But yeah, I forgot that. I was lucky to succeed because basically I made some bad choice with deployment, and then I tried some things to swing back the game. Charging with Giant was a bit risky, and the tank, I was lucky to get the overrun, but I think my opponent should have chaffed me better to avoid me getting any kind of overrun. I think that was easily possible with the Ranfordor being orientated a bit better to avoid me getting any kind of overrun. And yeah, basically I took some time to think about and also discuss with Thomas to think what was the problem in this game to only make 4 turns. I think we both took some time, maybe me even more than him, possibly. That's my feeling, I guess. And I think basically the problem for him, he was happy about that because that was a complicated game, so he was happy to only play 4 turns and win the scenario, of course. But I think the main problem of this is possibly a bit of technical ability and systematic during the game. That's one thing. But I think the key point is because of my bad deployment, I made the game much more complicated than it should have been. And that's the key problem that I need to think about. And yeah, now let's discuss about the deployment. Basically, I think that's what I should have done. Put 2 monsters on the right to cover properly, nothing going into my flank. So basically using 1 table edge to have a strong right flank towards the middle. Put scoring unit towards the center. Lugar against BSB, I think it's a good matchup. Lugar can also take possibly Ranfordor, charging them because of ward save and then good attack. He has not a lot of health point. I have also some grinding if needed. Put the Infernal Warrior in a similar way to what he did and use in a smart way this central piece of impassable terrain. and then basically keep 1 unit of slave to frenzy bait both Renfordon. And then on the left, I think it would have been better to put the tank to zone the Carnosaur, either force him to move toward the center, and then maybe even put the tank a bit more centrally, and then the Lugar slightly to the right, to the left, and basically be ready to take the charge, and with Lugar to be able to cover a bit the flank, and that's it. And with the tank, basically, if he decides to move towards the center, then I'm still able with the tank to move towards the center and be a kind of support towards the center. So I think maybe tank here to zone a bit the Carnosaur moving towards my line, and still with Engineer, with hard target, I'm still able to hit him on 5-up, so it's still a bit risky for him. So I guess tank would have been much better on the left side, and basically more scoring towards the center. And yeah, my general in BSB can be out of the unit because he has nothing to scary from distance, so I should be able to be out of the unit. And basically with a compact line like this, he shouldn't be able to fly and get some good position. And basically if he decides to move towards the flank with the Sigio, I can still cover with the Lugar and just move the slave forward to chaff him or frenzy bait and so on. So I think that would have been much better to play compact. I think that's always something that I remarked when I was playing Wild Hunt with Ogre, and now that I'm playing again with ID. When you have a gap in mobility, when you're playing with block against a unit MSU with a lot of movement, flying unit and so on, you gain a lot to deploy compact in a compact way to deny him a little bit his high mobility advantage in the match. I think it's much more in Thomas' favor to play like we did over the whole board, to have possibilities to threat in the flank and so on. I think it's much better for him than for me. And this made for me a too complicated game, actually, which shouldn't have been the case. So interesting. I didn't play against Lizard since a long time, so it was really interesting for me. A lot of lessons learned. Interesting game, well played by Thomas, and yeah, I was only able to get an 11, but I think I should be able to do much better next time I face a similar list with a similar list from me as well. So interesting learning, and still I'm getting to table 2 to play against Xavier, captain from Team Switzerland. So interesting game 3 with possibility to win the tournament still, so it will be really interesting to face his demon. Thanks a lot guys for watching the game. I hope you enjoyed it, and talk to you soon on my channel. Bye.